This video is going to help you review how to use fraction busters, which is what we were working on right before we left for winter break. So step one of doing fraction busters. First thing we're going to do is identify the lowest common denominator of all the fractions in the equation. So think about if you were to add or subtract the fractions, what would you make the denominator? Or think about what number could both of these numbers go into evenly, or you could also think about what number do I get when I multiply these two numbers together. That might not be the lowest common denominator, but it's going to be a common denominator. Step two, you're going to multiply each term in the equation by the least common denominator. This will eliminate all the fractions completely and leave only integers in the equations. When you do this, instead of multiplying the whole number or your denominator by the numerator and then dividing, it's going to actually be easier to divide first. So solve using the steps for multiplying or multi-step equations. So what I meant by that, so say for example, you had the fraction 2 over 6, and you were going to multiply it by 12. Instead of doing 12 times 2 is 24 divided by 6, which you can do, I would do 12 divided by 6 times 2, because if I did 12 times 2 equals 24 and then divided it by 6, I would still get 4. However, if I did 12 divided by 6, which is 2 times 2, that's actually a little bit quicker, especially when the fractions end up being like 8, and you have to do 12 times 8. I'd rather do 12 divided by 6 times 8 than 12 times 8 divided by 6. I'm still going to get the same number in the end. I just want to make sure I do it in the quickest fashion. All right, so here's my first example. So it's 3/4 A plus 1/2 equals 5/6A plus 2. So I have to think about what is my lowest common denominator or lowest common multiple of 4, 2, and 6. Well, 4 and 2 both go into 4 evenly, but 6 does not. So I want to think 12. So 12 is probably going to be my lowest common denominator, because 4, 2, and 6 can all go into 12 evenly. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply all my terms by 12. And you can write this out if you need to. So when I do this, I divide first. 4 goes into 12 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. So I'm going to get 9A. Plus 2 goes into 12 6 times. Times 1 is 6. Equals 6 goes into 12 twice. Times 5 is 10. Plus 12 times 2 is 24. So don't forget to also multiply your lowest common denominator times the integer terms as well, okay? And then I solve. So I'm going to subtract 9A from both sides because I know that it's going to give me 1, and I already eliminated my coefficients. So now I get 6 equals A plus 24. Then I subtract 24 from both sides. So I get A equals 24 minus 6, 18, negative 18. Okay, example 2. So this time I have expressions above my fractions, but it works the same way. I still think about 7 and 3. What is my lowest common denominator? So 7 doesn't go into 3, 3 doesn't go into 7, so I'm just going to multiply them. My lowest common denominator is going to be 21. So it works the same way, except that instead of just a whole number on the top, I'm going to have a expression. So 7 goes into 21 3 times. So now I'm going to have 3 groups of 2W minus 3 minus 3 goes into 21 7 times, 7 groups of 8W plus 5 equals a negative 21 times 14, which I don't know on the top of my head. I'll multiply it here. Negative 294. Okay, and then I solve. So I get 6W minus 9 minus 56W minus 35 equals a negative 294. 6W minus 56W is a negative 50W minus negative 9 and negative 35 is a negative 44. It's negative 294. So then I'm going to add 44 to both sides. I get a negative 250. Divide by negative 50. I get W equals 50. 5. Sorry, W equals 5. Okay, next problem. So we're going to do this a little more step by step. So first thing I want you guys to do is you have the denominators of 2, 3, and 3. What do you think is the lowest common denominator? Okay, so lowest common denominator is 6, which means I'm going to multiply through by 6. So 2 goes into 6 3 times. 3 times 7 is 21, so I get 21y. 3 goes into 6 twice, so I get 2 equals negative 42y. Minus 3 goes into 6 twice. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, so I'm going to add 42y to both sides. So I get 63y minus 2 equals negative 8. Add 2. I'm going to get 63y equals negative 6. Divide both sides by 63. So I'm going to get y equals a negative 6 over 63. Since 3 goes into both of those evenly, I get y equals a negative 2 over 21. And I just leave it like that. I can turn it to a decimal. It's not going to be a friendly decimal, so I just leave it as negative 2 over 21. Okay. Next problem, so same thing. For this one, I want you guys to decide what the lowest common denominator is. Okay. In this case, the lowest common denominator is 8. So I multiply the whole thing by 8. 8 goes into 8 once, so I just get 3x plus 8. I could put up times 1 in front of it, but it's going to do the same thing. 4 goes into 8 twice, so I get 2 groups of 3x minus 3, plus 8 times 1 is 8. And then I solve. 3x plus 8 equals 6x minus 6 plus 8. 3x plus 8 is going to equal 6x minus or plus 2. Subtract 3x from both sides. I get 8 equals 3x plus 2 minus 2 minus 2. I'm going to get 6 divided by 3. X ends up equaling 2. Okay, for this next example, I want you guys to try the next step on your own. So first try to find the lowest common denominator. Okay, in this case, the lowest common denominator is 15. So multiply everything by 15. So I want you guys to decide what you get next. Okay, 3 goes into 15. 5 times 2 is 10, so I get a negative 10m. 5 goes into 15 3 times. 3 times 6 is 18. 5 goes into 15 3 times. 3 times 4 is 12. Minus 45, because 15 times 3 is 45. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides. So 2m plus 18 equals negative 45. Subtract 18 from both sides. 2m equals a negative 63. Divide both sides by 2. And m equals a negative, so 63 divided by 2 is 31.5. So negative 31.5, or you could have left it as negative 63 divided by 2. Last example. So again, I want you guys to try to figure out the common denominator. In this case, it is 15 again. So then what would my new equation be? So 3 goes into 15 5 times. So I'm going to have 5 groups of 2b plus 7 equals 15 times 4 is 60. Minus 5 goes into 15 3 times, 3 groups of 2b plus 3. All right, so I simplify. So I get 10b plus 35 equals 60 minus 6b minus 9. B plus 35 equals 51 minus 6b. Add 6b to both sides. I'm going to get 16b plus 35 equals 51. Subtract 35 from both sides. Equals 16b. And then divide both sides by 16. So b ends up equaling 1.